Married people. What did you not find out about your significant other until after you got married? That he didn't spend all of Desert Storm in Berlin like he said he did. I found that out about 10 years after we got married. He was in the front row in a documentary on Desert Storm that was filmed, in part, in Saudi Arabia. Then, about 10 years after that, I found out that he didn't just drive a truck in Saudi Arabia, and did indeed see combat. He won't talk about it, and I accept that. He knows that I'm here for him if he needs to talk about it one day. Soldier guy here. Sometimes the problem isn't that they saw crazy shit. I mean that's what everyone assumes when soldiers don't want to talk about the wars they were in. Sometimes the problem is that they feel like they never did anything. So many guys I work with tell their spouses nothing, because it's better to let them guess than admit, I never did anything. Sometimes treating soldiers like heroes is worse than treating them like normal people. You see on TV all the crazy shit that goes on, recognize that you weren't a part of it, and feel embarrassed or ashamed. I have no idea what experiences your husband has had. Just recognize he's got reasons for telling you what he told you. And he's got reasons for not telling you the things he doesn't want to talk about. I'm probably late to this party, but I used to be married. That's no longer the case, so it goes. Anyways, I was getting dinosaur stuff for our boy, and his mother said something along the lines of, "I don't like dinosaurs, and I'm happy they are not real." I chuckled, thinking she meant she is relieved her life is not like Jurassic Park, being chased by these giant predators. Nope. Turned out she believes dinosaurs never walked this earth. I had known her for 6 solid years, and this completely blew me away, sideswiping me with horror. She thinks people are guessing when they put partial bones together, and just fabricate these creatures. I'm still affected by this, even years later. When I go on dates, there is a litmus test now. I ask what her stance is on dinosaurs every first date. Not making that mistake again. The extent of his alcoholism. Holy crap. How did he hide it? Drank like a social drinker, you know, maybe a glass of wine with dinner, mostly on a Friday night or Saturday. Graduated to going out after work with the gang from the office, and walking in sloshed. I have no idea how he drove like that. Coming home with a note from a boss that his performance was sorely lacking, and that he had to shape up. He countered this with just getting another job in his industry that paid more. I used to drink every day. From the moment I got off work until I went to bed. So, my wife made an appointment with a marriage counselor, and told me we should go. I hated the idea, but knew it was a good idea. The first few appointments were about us and how we treated each other during certain situations. Communication, why we love each other, what we want to improve about ourselves, and what we want also to improve on. Alcoholism was included in these conversations. It was extremely uncomfortable talking about it, and I hated it. Then, the therapist starts asking about my alcoholism. I explained the extent of it. 3 shots, 50 milliliters, from the gas station close to my work, then 2 more and some beer from the local liquor store. It was the same every night. It was the exact amount I needed. I knew if I bought more, I would drink it. Then, he asked me, why? Why do you drink this much every day? I didn't know what to say. I didn't have an answer for him. For myself. I didn't know. We continued to see him a couple more times. I'm still drinking the same amount every day. Then one day at work it was driving me insane. Why? Why do I drink every ducking day? That was it. I stopped my routine. I may have a drink or 2 here and there, but I no longer feel the need to drink every day. My life has never been better. The relationship between my wife and I has improved greatly. I've been spending so much more time with my children. I am happy. Sometimes all it takes is a little push on the right direction. Side note, I still see the counselor on my own. It helps a lot. I still think about drinking every day, I just choose not to. He specializes in substance abuse and counseling for couples. By the way, thank you wife. You saved me. I love you. Found out about a year after we were married when we went to buy a house. We were both in our 30s, and I had already bought and sold a house before. Took us well over a year to find the exact house we wanted, and applied for a mortgage. I thought it would be a slam dunk, and I was floored when the bank called and said our application for a mortgage was rejected. I asked for an appointment to find out why. We both went in to see the loan officer. The conversation went about like this. We take both spouses' incomes and credit history into account when applying for a mortgage. Your incomes together met the threshold for getting this mortgage. You're pointing at me. Credit history is almost flawless. There is a slight issue that happened 3 years ago with a late payment, but that is nothing to be concerned about. However, you're pointing at my wife. Credit history is an issue. And he pulls out sheet after sheet after sheet of credit issues with my wife. Late payments after non-payments, after credit card after credit card. It seemed like it went on forever. She just stared forward the entire time. We had to apply for a mortgage using solely my income. TLDR, found out a year into our marriage that my wife's credit history was a nightmare. While we were dating, my husband always told me this story about how he used to race dirt bikes and wrecked one time so badly that he had to have surgery to reconstruct his nose. I had wondered why he looked so different in his younger pictures. Anyway, it wasn't until we had been married several years that his mother heard me mentioning that story and how scary that must have been for her, worrying about her son, and she didn't know what I was talking about. The truth was that he never wrecked a dirt bike, and his nose looked different because he had been ashamed of his larger than average Italian nose, so she saved up her money to buy him a nose job. I didn't learn this until after 17 years of marriage. My wife passed away. At the funeral I met her ex-husband, her 22-year-old son who she hadn't seen for 19 years, and her other 20-year-old son who she gave up for adoption, from a different father. I never knew any of them existed until the night before the funeral when her best friend asked if I minded if they came. Yes, it was awkward. She never had spoken of them. The closest she came to admitting it was when we were dating, and she said, "Don't believe a word my sister says. She tells everyone that I'm divorced and had 2 kids." 17 years later I found out that was the truth. Edit, obligatory, crap this blew up. She had died suddenly, so I was in shock at the funeral, and A, didn't want to be a donk and not let them pay their respects, and B, I wasn't really in a clear mind that day and just said, "Sure, and hi, sorry to meet like this." We dated for 2 years before getting married, and I only met her mom and sister. Her parents had been divorced after her dad beat her, so I never met him. Her sister was on probation for embezzlement and was a huge liar. That's for another time. Her mom passed away after we got married, and her sister ended up going to prison, so no, we never interacted with any other of her family. We were married 10 years before we had a daughter, and at no time with the doctor, in my presence, did she indicate that she had been through any of this before. Needless to say, I have trust issues now, although I haven't been in any other relationships yet. My daughter was young when my wife passed, so I didn't tell her any of this now, but I will when she gets older and is capable of understanding. And yes, I'm doing fine. I was angry with my wife on many levels when she passed, but she left me with a beautiful daughter that made up for everything else. And I'm doing okay now. That he knew how to ballroom dance and took a cake decorating course for an art credit. I learned it the same night. I couldn't decorate cupcakes, and he took over. Later at the event, he grabbed me and waltzed perfectly. Can't wait for the next few years. Best comment of the day. OMG, I remember this one time my crush was dared to just straddle me for the whole game until someone dares him to do something else. Since there was so many people involved in the game, we only had like 3 shots at answering, and he only picked truth right after. The whole game lasted for almost 2 hours. I died right on the spot. LMFAO.